Maybe we should start with you, Emerald, just really about the when you came up with the idea for the film, and maybe also if you can give a very short synopsis as well.
Sure. I mean, I came up with the idea for this film maybe 3-4 years ago. The idea that came to me was of this young woman in a nightclub, drunk out of her mind, and that conversation between a group of men after work saying like, oh God, look at her, asking for it. And then the moment when that turns from disgust to like opportunity. And I was just interested in what might happen if somebody takes a drunk woman home, and then realises that they're not drunk. And, what the fallout of that might be. And so that is the sort of inciting moment of this movie, is that question, I guess.
And I suppose for both of you as well, the tone of the film, I think, is going to be really unique because it veers between tragedy, horror, comedy. It goes to all those places.
I really love describing it as a rom-com, tragedy, thriller, funny movie. It does. It goes to all those places. And I think that's just, when I read the script, I had never read anything like it, and it's why I immediately wanted to do it. And there was a part of me that thought, how do you pull this off? And then I met Emerald and I thought, done, great. And within moments, literally, was it within 10 minutes, didn't I? I was like, I always get told off for doing this. So I haven't done it, since I was sort of 25, but I really want to do this film. And I haven't told my agent yet because I was just so desperate to sort of seal the deal so she couldn't change her mind. But yeah, I do. It covers. There are so many different. You experience so many different feelings watching it, and I really think that the skill that it takes to make those twists and turns and make all of that cohesive and into one sort of completely original thing is something that only Emerald could have done.
And maybe you can talk more about Cassie's character, because of course it's quite a person really that can choose to be giving her life to that when a 30-year-old might be choosing to do other things, for example.
Yeah, I think she's really stuck in a time. I think something happened that derailed her life, and she's just chosen not to move on from it. She can't move on from it. And so I think this is her sort of survival mode, and the way that she's trying to process what's happened to her and what's happened to her life. So yeah, it is. She's a very sort of unusual, unpredictable, sometimes unlikable, but ultimately good person, I think.
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting, when you look at characters in Westerns, you look at revenge movies in general with male protagonists, and they are single-minded and they are on a journey, and it is a journey of revenge and redemption and all of that. It's interesting when you put a woman in that place and how different that feels, because the truth of it is what everyone in the movie is saying to Cassie, and what everyone I think in our society is saying is, let it go. And isn't it interesting what happens when the tension comes in everywhere, at home, at work, in your love life, when you are a woman who says, I'm not going to let it go. I'm never, ever, ever going to let this go. And it's amazing how discomforting that is, and how I think all of us, there's a part of this movie, the reason that it is lots of different genres, I think, is that all of these different possible lives are pulling at Cassie. And it's important that the life that she could lead if she let it go is so tempting and tantalising and wonderful, and the one that she's taking is hard, really hard. And that's a character, that only Carey could have brought to life, I think, because, we understand why Cassie does it, I think, even though it's sort of heartbreaking.
Can we talk about the tone of the movie a little bit, and the soundtrack as well, because it's a very dark story wrapped up in this wonderful pink and green and yellow and pastel, wrapping paper as well, and a great punk and pop soundtrack as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think for me, the first thing was I just wanted to make a movie that was a movie that you would want to go and see on a date on a Friday night, that you would want to go and see with your friends. Just because the subject matter is hard, I don't think it should be a hard watch. I wanted it to be thrilling and exciting and funny and romantic and scary, all those things. But, you know, when you look at life, and particularly women's lives, they are beautiful and monstrous and violent and soft. And I think that it felt inherently female to me to make a world that was tactile, appealing, but had this kind of bleeding heart at the centre of it. Because I think we all know what it feels like to cover things up with sugar, I suppose. I mean, it is a spoonful of sugar, isn't it? This whole thing. And the medicine's kind of arsenic, I suppose.
Great way of putting it.
It is really bang on.
Did you have any chats with people like Adam and Christopher in those scenes where, you know, you're talking, and were these actors obviously very willing to participate in scenes where, of course, a guy is coming off as a really bad guy in the end?
Well, I suppose that's a kind of, in terms of before they shot it.
Just before the scenes, that kind of thing.
I mean, they were just so willing. They were so willing to go, they're both absolutely, I mean, all the men in our film were so delightful. And they were only in for a day at a time, and we kept on mourning the loss of them when they left, because they were so lovely and wonderful and hilarious. But they all got it. They all understood what this was about, and they all, and there was they're remarkably sensitive, and we did it all, with I never once felt sort of, it was all beautifully done and very, wonderfully kind of, everyone was totally aware of what we were doing, and that was very serious, but they were also really willing to go there and put themselves in the position of really sort of pushing into some of the more, which is also very funny, as well as being sort of very uncomfortable. Some of it's very funny, and that's they had faith in Emerald, I think, to sort of be able to make sure that was, but they were very open to, and it's not always easy to let yourself be the baddie, or in that sense, like a weak baddie, because they're not sort of, it's very easy to be a sort of badass guy and be like, but to be a sort of weak character, which is, and really those scenes are showing this weakness of character, and that I think is a harder thing to ask someone to do, and they really let themselves, didn't they? And they were so brilliant.
Yeah, they really did. And also the thing is, for this movie, and the thing that I said to every single actor coming in is, none of these characters think they're bad. None of the things they're doing, Adam's character genuinely thinks he's in a rom-com. He's met this girl. It's just that when you watch rom-coms now, you often, the women kind of don't really speak that much. And that men are falling in love with female characters that maybe are just sitting there. And so, part of it for me was saying, you're not evil. You don't have an ulterior motive. You don't think you do. You just don't know if it's about power and the power dynamic between men and women, it's just a lot of very decent, or men who believe they're very decent, often don't realise the power that they have. And they often don't realise when they're taking advantage. And certainly, every location we went to, every guy's apartment we went to, a lot of the women on set would go, yeah, I've been here. And so the actors, I hope, never felt uncomfortable, because I was just saying, just imagine we're shooting a rom-com and this is that first scene when you're seducing this girl.